And I say this not to gloat. I say this because it took me 20 years to have our first 7-figure month. Like, took years and years. But if you keep going, you suddenly can have that groundswell of, as I keep saying, tractions.
Success in this industry rarely comes from a single magic bullet. It comes from keeping your head down, executing on the details day after day, and staying focused on your goals. That's what Chris Earley has learned over his 20-year career. One example of his focus can be seen through his approach to intake.
I take intake hyper seriously, Chris. I'm pretty obsessed with intake. Because otherwise, what's the point of all this stuff we're doing? Hustling, what's the point?
Hustle creates opportunities, but it doesn't close them. If you don't know the difference, your firm is already falling behind. This is Personal Injury Mastermind. I'm Chris Stryer, founder and CEO of Rankings.io, the elite performance marketing agency for personal injury law firms. Today, Chris Earley is back to unpack how relentless consistency and a hyper-local approach can transform a practice. We dive into dialing in a 93.5% intake conversion rate, maintaining tunnel vision on your ultimate objective, and why just giving that extra degree of effort separates the good firms from the great ones. Let's get into it. What's something you're excited about today? Like something, a current win, something that's really got you pumped up?
Traction is what I see now. But since we met 3 years ago, I've seen traction. And so I encourage the listener, keep going, keep shoveling shit, if you will. And then but doing that. So finally seeing some traction, seeing results, that's a big win. And so I encourage the listener, keep going. I think resilience is wildly underrated.
I couldn't agree more. And we're going to talk about a lot of those from a resilience perspective. We'll dig into reviews, how you're building a brand, all these things. You mentioned your biggest breakthrough recently was resilience, reinvesting into the brand. So talk to us about that moment where you really decided to lean in. I love the call early before it's too late, and it's perfect, fits with the name. It's amazing.
Well, I'm a big believer in using what you got, Chris, right? So I just try to use what I got and leverage what I got. So my name is Earley. That the slogan "Call early before it's too late" came from a marketing assistant who was with me for like 3 months and then left for a better opportunity. This is 4 or 5 years ago. I took that, trademarked it. Now we splatter billboards, social, and everyone says to me, "I love that." So when you know you have a winner, double down and go to town on that. But use what you got. When you have something that wins, go in hard, and then that's how I think you compound your traction, right? You get more and more traction. That's been super helpful. A couple of the quick wins. We just, you mentioned, reached 1,000 reviews. That was a tough slog. That took me many years. If everyone left me a review, I'd have 25,000, like all of us, right? Almost nobody leaves us reviews. We first ask. A lot of persistence, a lot of, embedding in our culture. We ask for reviews. That's helpful. There's a lot of social proof of the 1,000 reviews. So again, my big thing here, Chris, resilience, sticking with it, and getting after it, get more and more reviews has been crucial. We also, and I say this not to gloat, I say this because it took me 20 years to have our first 7-figure month. Like, took years and years. But if you keep going, you suddenly can have that groundswell of, as I keep saying, traction. So that was a win for us, right? And I said humbly, like, it took me years and years, and very humbling to finally hit that. Now it's like, all right, let's keep going. Let's keep building on that and getting more of those months.
That first, congrats. That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Reviews are so critical. Let's start there. I mean, you got it. I checked today, at least the time we're recording this, you have 1,007.
Yeah.
And funny thing here is I have a research team that helps us with podcast production. When they were prepping, you got 15 in a day. So we were trying to change the number and we're like, holy shit. So it's like, as of today, it's 1,007, but I expect when it goes live, it'll be maybe 1,100. Who knows?
So let me share how we got those 15 in one day. I use what I have. So I have an email list that goes out to hundreds of lawyers across the United States. I encourage you to sign up for it. It's called practicetipoftheweek.com. And I never ask for anything, Chris. I always deliver value each week. I give a practice tip, something I learned at a seminar, at a mastermind, at a conversation over coffee, and I share tips with lawyers. And I give unsolicited just suggestions on how this will move the needle. Now, a day last week, I was like, guys, I never asked you for anything. We're trying to get to 1,000 reviews. Will you help us out? I got like 20 that day. So just give value. And then once in a while, it's okay to ask for things too if you give enough, right? That was a watershed day. It's like, shit, we just got 20 reviews in one day. Giving obviously helps. The more you give, the more you get, I find. So that's been super helpful.
That's incredible. And I love that you're using that as a way to give back, but it's also, hey, it's give without expecting anything in return. And then once you
Yes.
do the Gary Vaynerchuk, the jab, jab, jab,
Yes.
eventually you can ask
Completely.
and do that right hook.
Well, on point, Gary Vee all the way. Huge fan of his. At your great event, you let me speak at PimCon. I've been there 2 years in a row. Wonderful event. I encourage people. We didn't talk about this, but I encourage people to get out there to the event. I spoke on stage. Gary Vee's very powerfully influential on me. Do the work that people don't do. The bar isn't that high to outwork the average bear, right? I know you speak my language because you hustle. You're always working. It's not hard to outwork the competition. So do those things, put a lot of content out, outwork everyone, and I think good things happen.
Couldn't agree more. And thank you for the compliment. That
Of
means a
course.
ton.
Of course.
Talk to me to your marketing mix. Like what percentage is digital, brand? Do you do any lead gen? Do you do, what referrals? Tell me about your mix as much as you're willing to share.
Yeah, I'm pretty open and transparent. So, we do outdoor, we do billboards, don't get a ton of cases, but I'm trying to have an iron stomach and stick with it in hopes that the slogan, the repetitive, just burning in people's brains will pay off. So on billboards, I'm kind of unclear if I'm going to continue. I really believe in heavy digital, heavily investing in Google My Business with reviews. LSAs have been very powerfully effective for us, right? We get into the weeds with the LSAs. We feed the algorithm. We feed the dashboard with information on each lead promptly. So we encourage the LSA machine to keep feeding us leads. I'm a real social media. I lean heavily on LinkedIn, right? That's part of our digital presence. Facebook, Instagram, trying to feed all these social signals into Google, these mentions, right? Compounding those things. So really, to answer your question, no, we don't do lead gen. I did it for a little bit. It was a hot mess. And I'm kicking and screaming, trying to maintain the outdoor stuff and believing it's working. I'm staying with it until I know it's not a winner. But in the meantime, heavy digital, heavy, reviews, local SEO, content, feeding Google My Business constantly, photos, updates, heavy digital for sure, definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned LinkedIn. So when I spoke last year about like what the LLMs are trained on, at the top was like Reddit. It's leasing their data, and you went to Google and it's like Reddit, the forums ranked number one for like everything, things they shouldn't.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I think Microsoft with that OpenAI relationship, now we've seen some recent studies. There's one on SEMrush. Now LinkedIn's like at the top of the top. Is that part of it, or is it like, hey, yes, and I'm talking, giving information to my peers for referrals? Speak to me specifically about LinkedIn.
Oh, every day for about 4 years, probably 5 years, I post once a day to LinkedIn. I lean really hard on LinkedIn. Anyone who knows me knows I try to really maximize that platform because again, these social signals. I don't know about your listeners, Chris. My personal LinkedIn outperforms substantially over my company LinkedIn. I don't know why that is.
Same.
I don't know why. It seems to be the way it is. But LinkedIn, there's a reason why Microsoft is all in on it. They believe in it, right? Super smart people putting big dollars behind LinkedIn. We should be there. We should be posting, right? I literally give seminars about LinkedIn for lawyers because I think a lot of us don't allocate that time. But if you give value and you post, right? I see you on LinkedIn. I see a lot of people on LinkedIn, but you need to be sort of present and not trolling because the algorithm will reward you. They'll push you up. They'll keep seeing your name because we're trying to just be as digitally prevalent as possible and leveraging social. Going back to Gary Vee, that's what he did many years ago. That's what Mr. Beast did years ago. Just started a shit ton of content, like on the daily, right? Cross posting, all that stuff. You get rewarded for that.
I agree. Yesterday, I can't remember why. I think everybody does this at some point in time. I typed in Chris Dreyer and I wanted to see what my results were. And number 2 was LinkedIn.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, that alone is a big reason to at least have a robust profile. And I'm still experimenting, trying to figure it out. So I'm posting once a day for 7 days, and I post like these I call it like bigger TAM, like leadership type things.
Yep.
And I try to always do a graphic so people can save it. I
Yep.
don't know if that, I do see the saves, but I don't know if that contributes. But then I do 3 a week, really specific to PI, because I'm thinking hey, let me get a big stuff for the total TAM and then stuff for the industry. But I don't know. I'm kind of questioning whether or not it should be all PI, and maybe I just don't care about, anyways. So LinkedIn, I'm curious how you're thinking about the content that you're creating on there.
Well, I'll answer that, but I would encourage you keep going until the algorithm tells you what it likes, right? Because it's a short sample, right? Maybe, let it breathe, and then you will find that voice that resonates, that you get the word of today, I guess, is traction. You find your traction on LinkedIn. So my voice is very sort of like raw. I'll drop swears. Because I want to stop the scroll. So you park on my stuff. The algorithm notices, oh, dryers, reading Chris's stuff. Okay, let's, keep pumping early stuff up. Well, that's the idea, is to be present on the algorithm. But I really lean into my voice, and Early's voice is different than Dryer's voice. So we should all be like just finding our unique language to give value to people. If you're a PI lawyer, do not use the bandwidth on LinkedIn talking about what you have for a car accident. Your criminal defense. Don't talk about what you have to arrest. Like, give value, share your struggles, share your successes in moderation. I don't think it should be all about, chest thumping. It's like, shit, I just had the shittiest day. Here's what happened. But I got off the mat and I kept trying, and here's what good occurred today. Just like being real on social has been tremendous in my career, Chris. Tremendous. It's been game changing, actually. Authentic.
That's great. Yeah. I not a lot of people in the legal space are really focused on LinkedIn. It seems like more on Instagram and these other platforms, but I'm with you. I think LinkedIn has a ton of value. What's an investment on a billboard? Like, what we talking, obviously prime locations, more costly. Like what's it cost to invest and get these billboards? Like,
Well, it depends. So, if you're on a, highway in downtown Boston, closer to 10, right? Closer to 10 a month. Smaller areas, less maybe have, but like you can negotiate these bundles quite a bit. Right? That's where scale has advantage. The more you buy, the cheaper. I'm not some heavy billboard player in Boston, right? I'm just sort of like playing the game and seeing what happens. But when you buy a lot of radio, right, you're going to get it cheaper at scale, right? As we know. So it depends. I would encourage you to negotiate, but like I think you have to be careful. Just send back with your marketing dollars. A coach, Mickey Love, is a coach of mine, right? She taught me, and she's been on the show. What's the best use of your next dollar? I encourage a practitioner, be really careful with that, right? You like know what you're going to get, know your CAC, right? Know what your marketing dollars are bringing in, not just leads, wanted leads. What are you converting from your wanted leads? Those are sort of those numbers. So yeah, most of us probably have enough dough to put a billboard up for a time, right? But is that the best use? So I've been doing this for a while. So we have a little bit of, we can play around a little bit and test things, right? But if I was starting out, I wouldn't get a billboard. I would be heavy TikTok, LinkedIn, social, YouTube shorts. Be posting my ass off free. And then when I have a winner, I put money behind that and let that baby run until it doesn't run anymore. Right. So it's different stages. I think different opportunities pop up, but just being careful with your marketing dollars has been helpful for me.
let's talk about intake. You're building the brand. You've got a nice tagline, billboards, digital reviews. You're posting consistently. Talk to me about intake. Last we talked, I think you had Keep and Infusionsoft. You still rock? Did you change? Are you same tech stack? Change the
Still
stack?
using that. Yeah, lead docket, heavy on lead docket, right? And we have Keep as a CRM. Happy to, get into how we kind of utilize that. But I have really good salespeople on our intake team. They're wonderful. And they're really good with empathy, with sales. That's what we care about. And I've had good retention with our new client specialists, right? With those, our sales team. That's been super helpful. So I want to share this. I meet with my intake team every single day. I don't meet with everyone every team member every day. It's those people because it's crucial, right? You have to know, you have to be dialed in on your intake. You can't take your foot off the gas. Again, it's really important. Best use of your next marketing dollar, but knowing, okay, what am I capturing in my net? I'm going fishing in the ocean. I got these fish. Is the marketing working? Okay, great. With these wanted leads, again, am I converting and I hold my team to that. We should be at 93.5% wanted conversion. Everyone knows the number. Like that's where we're at. That's success. If we fall behind that or past that, that's our benchmark, right? So it's really important. I take intake hyper seriously, Chris. I'm pretty obsessed with intake. Because otherwise, what's the point of all this stuff we're doing,
Yeah.
hustling? What's the point?
We were joking and laughing before we hit the record button because I like to creep my audience's LinkedIn company profile, look at their staff and everything. And I saw like one of my notes was what you mentioned, right? So you have a new client specialist, you have 2 or 3 individuals to do that, and I was like, you know, well, what is this? Is this they've signed, they're a client, and now they're your orientation people before the case manager? Or is this maybe reframing, instead of calling them intake, that's your sales team?
Sales team. And then once the sale's done or consummated, if you will, it goes to a case manager. I'm a big believer in like narrowing people's responsibilities, like specialists as opposed to generalists. Because my first scale, I had a lot of generalists, and now it's like we're trying to get more specialized. So if you're on our intake team, like Chris, your job is just to sign up wanted leads, like real clear. So Chris, exactly where you stand, right? And I like to hire competitive people. I want competitive people like Chris, right? Who want to like win and just high level. That has been super helpful. That's a little hack I found. Hiring humble people who want to compete and hit goals and who love transparency. They want their name to be up on the board to see where they performed on a given month, because that encourages competition within the company. That's been super helpful to weed out those who are arrogant and don't want to be held accountable and don't really want to be on a board of results. That's people I like. Humble, competitive, forever learners. That's really what I like to hire.
Fantastic. Yeah. And the competition, I can't remember what book I read. It was a book where I think they wrote a number down on the manufacturing floor, and then the next night it was bigger. And it's like, well, that's what you get with competition in the gamification.
Is that Henry Ford?
Yeah, I think maybe it was Life of Henry Ford.
One of those titans back in the day.
Yeah.
And I love that because like, screw that number. We're going to outdo that number today, right? Love it.
Talk to me about maximizing case value. You've got a case manager, but you also have the litigation component too. I believe, litigation paralegal. And so talk to me about how you're trying to, obviously, I know you care about client experience, but like, how are you trying to maximize the case value that you're getting in?
Well, I mentioned Mickey Love. She's been enormously influential on my growth. She's taught me communication, client communication, right? So when Dryer, sorry to keep using the example, I know you have thick skin. When Dryer signs up as a client, we're going to communicate like crazy with him. We want to know exactly what's going on with him, how he's doing, what's new on his treatment, right? Does he have any recent wins in his family, like graduations, whatever? Like, we want to be sensitive to those things, but at a minimum, really dialing into client communication, repeat client communication to the point where you're just like, all right, dude, like chill in the communication. I'm good. You don't have to do as much. Then I know I'm kind of winning this effort of communicating. So that has been massive, maximizing client case value for the client. And again, everything is for the client. I encourage the listener. Everything is about betterment of the client. When you do that, all ships rise on a high tide like that. So communication, that's the hack that I've discovered. The more you communicate with clients, more case values rise because you'll uncover things. You're not manufacturing injuries. You're uncovering the truth of what happened here. You can't do that with superficial communication, right? So when you're a client, that's establishing a relationship with you. And I stole this from a colleague of mine, a mentor, Angel Finkelstein of New York. He taught me the power of surveys. So we survey. So I'm going to send you a survey, Chris. How are we doing? How is the communication on a scale of 1 to 10? Without using a 7, rate our communication. How likely are you to refer? Like a, what's that called?
NPS.
NPS, thank you. So we want to infuse a referral culture, right? But I can't know what you're upset about unless I ask you. So I encourage the listener, survey your clients. Equally, if not more important, survey yourself. Ask your team to survey you. How you're doing. Are you a good listener? I started doing that and it was cringe. I was cringing at the results because they were terrible for my team. And then slowly they got better. So I encourage you, do surveys of clients, surveys of staff, survey your staff on the morale of the firm. How would you rate the morale of the firm today? But yeah, I think you need to really bust your ass in communication, but to ask the client, how are we doing? How can we get better? Because those people who are unhappy are oftentimes silent unless you like poke the bear and ask like, okay, like tell us really how it's going. When they know you care, they're more likely to refer, because people want to refer people to you so they can also have a good experience at your firm. So that's been super helpful. It all comes down to communication, showing them good care, basically.
There was a book I read. I can't remember the name of it, who the author was. It was like Hug Your Haters.
Mm.
And it was like, because it's good information on how to improve.
Yes.
Anywho, I think it's the same guy that wrote Talk Triggers, whoever that is. But I got a lot out of that book personally. It's kind of reframes the negative information into a way of using it from a positive. Talk to me, about AI.
Mhm.
Are you, using an Even Up? Is there another company? Or is there a tool? Like, how are you, are you doing the Claude co-work thing in-house yourself? Or what are you testing? I know you're testing these things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I frankly feel like I'm behind Chris. Like, no matter how much you study this stuff and you go to events and conferences, it's still just dizzying the rate of accelerated speed of these innovations. Let's go to intake for a second. We use something called Speed AI, which is super helpful. Go back to intake. That's the number one thing, right? So understanding, reducing lead leakage, as they say, making sure that we capture those cases we want to capture. And that's an accountability aspect of our culture, right? We're listening to calls, recording calls, not to get people in trouble, but to like catch people doing something good, to identify areas to improve. Because it's no point in doing billboards and busting your ass on social if you're not getting the case assigned that you want. So the case is signed, and then we're using Eve. Eve has been fantastic for us. Eve has been very customer oriented, very helpful for us, good platform, easy to use. They want you to win as a partner. So we're very happy with Eve so far. That's been good. But like, I'm always open, right? Like things are changing so quick that I do encourage listener like to really, immerse yourself in this as much as possible. There's never been a better time to be an owner in the PI space, right? Although there's change, there's private equity, MSOs, all this stuff is happening. So you should be evolving. But AI is like such an equalizer. I was at a conference yesterday in Massachusetts, and they're talking about how AI equalized the playing field between us, the plaintiff lawyers, and insurance companies. It's a beautiful thing. So there's such an equalizer to AI. It's a wonderful thing, but I think you have to leverage it and not stick your head in the sand, and really, understand what you have and make good decisions that can help your firm by leveraging that technology.
I completely agree. It's everyone always talks to about like the importance of data and all these things. And we understand like good data, good decisions from like a visibility dashboards. Now it's like I never thought that I would be talking to Snowflake and data warehousing companies, BigQuery and things like that. And it's like it's just so essential because the AI, I heard Dorsey talking about this. If it has all the context, it can help you make better decisions from a strategy perspective.
Right.
So it's super interesting. And there's actually, and I don't get anything by recommending this, and I haven't mentioned this, is I follow the Legal Tech Fund's newsletter. I find it really intriguing because they are trying to invest in these software and AI companies. And so they like give these recap summaries on all of them. I'm like, oh, that one's interesting. Let me go check that one out.
Yeah.
And at least that's what I'm trying to do, at least in the legal space.
I love it. Stay ahead, man, right? That's super smart. I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah. I the podcast, it's like, maybe I'll listen to A16Z or Lenny's podcast as opposed to my standard My First Million and those guys. So it's exciting times, always changing. So yeah, talk to me about future goals. Like what's something that you're excited to try, or maybe it's a grassroots event. I know you're very involved in grassroots and supporting your community. What's something coming up in the future?
Well, I just thank you for bringing that up, because I think you can get such an advantage by getting hyper local, right? Ben Glass out of Virginia, he's been very helpful for me in my development. He said it's one thing to try to dominate a state, it's another thing to just try to dominate 5 square miles. So I really, in my neck of the woods, try to just be everywhere. We're starting radio soon. We got the billboard, social, hitting people pretty aggressively, right? Call early before it's too late. It's hard to miss it. And so I want to share the power that I've realized from giving, Chris. Like we talked about this a little bit earlier, but to organizations, supporting, not just writing a check, but showing up, trying to, prop them up, propping them up on social, creating awareness. I think people sleep in those opportunities, but you can gain so much traction. I always encourage, like, sponsor little leagues. You get SEO benefit, right? You get these mentions on social. Those things feed into Google, feed into the into AI platforms. So that's another way to get your name out there. So the future is, I'm just trying to build. Honestly, Chris, my intention is so it runs less and less without me, because that's more and more of a business, right? So a very dialed in parent, spouse. I seek to structure the company so it's less and less reliant on me. So my family and I can just do the things that we are, that we love doing. That's my why, is being a father, basically being the spouse that I
Right
really
right over your left shoulder.
exactly.
For anybody watching on
Yeah,
YouTube.
exactly. Can I just share? So that's me reading my memoir. So if you take anything away from this conversation with Chris and I, be different. Like, I use my name, but I also have a kind of a weird upbringing, bizarre, and I wrote a book about that. And when you're an author, I don't mean like an AI book. I mean like an actual memoir. And when you do those hard things, you get rewards. So that has created so many opportunities. So I use my story to my advantage, a story of struggle and pain into, inspiration. And so you just have to sort of get creative, use those things you have, and just harness that. But there's such power in writing a book. All of us have a book inside of us, right? I know you're an author, right? That's hard shit. Like, that's really hard work. I literally was pulling my hair, like, oh my God, I can't do this. It's the worst thing I've ever done. Hardest thing I've ever done. And then it's done. It's evergreen. So just like, and I distribute that book. I'm going to an event next week, and
Is that Scaling the Wall?
Scaling the Wall. Yeah. And look, reach out to me. I'll send you a free copy. So Scaling the Wall is my struggles of overcoming trauma and finding success, because I'm very grateful to have the success that I have. And I think all of us are lucky. I just read a great book by John Morgan, Life is Luck.
Oh yeah, I'm about 3 chapters in.
He's great. He's just like, he's freaking awesome. He's been on my path a couple times. I've had lunch with him. Just, you know why he's so successful? He's a giver. And he's also innovative, like highly innovative. He grew up poor. And so his circumstances in many ways were tougher than mine, but he spun it in a positive way. So whatever challenges you have, they can be curses or blessings. So one thing I'm going to be 50 in 6 months. The more grateful I get, Chris, the more my life expands, the better things get, right? And so I encourage you, all of us, almost everyone listening to this is an attorney or has a job, which I'm sure is, probably a pretty good one. If I make it a good dough, just be grateful for what you have. And I'm sure a lot of us already are. I wasn't that way, Chris. I was an angry lawyer. That's why I wrote a book about seeing the good and being less negative, being less of an asshole, more of hopefully a positive force. All right, I'll get off my soapbox. That's basically what has been helpful for me to overcome. But it took me like years and years to find success. We talk about traction. If you keep going and going and going, you sometimes, the plane is shaking. There's turbulence. The sound barrier is tough to break sometimes, but you get through that. And I think there's good stuff that awaits you if you're willing to put your head down and shovel shit long enough.
So for people that want to join the newsletter, want to check out the book, what's have questions about the pod, you and I discussed, what's the best way to get in touch? How can they connect with you?
Yeah. Reach out. Can I give my cell or no?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Call me my cell. I like to talk, have a conversation. Let's get to know each other, become friends. My cell is 617-956-2501, 617-956-2501. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow. Chris, I said before we started recording, this is one of the better podcasts in this whole massive ecosystem. Keep doing it. The thing about you're delivering a shit ton of content. You're up to, how many episodes are you at right now?
420, 430, something like that.
That's ridiculous, by the way. I mean, I love that. So like, you kept going, and now you're getting that traction, right? I encourage everyone, do the hard things, like Chris is doing, put out content. You should start a podcast. I have the Earley Show podcast, right? We should have you on that show. I'd love to have you on.
Man.
So I encourage, start a podcast, do this stuff, shovel shit. And then I believe good things happen.
I agree. Consistency solves over, not quitting, continuing the fight, and you're doing it. I mean, 1,007 reviews as of today.
I appreciate it.
Like I said, tomorrow will be 1,100. And Chris,
God
thanks for
willing.
coming on the show.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you, buddy.
Consistency and resilience are the ultimate competitive advantages. Whether it's writing a memoir, posting daily on LinkedIn, or grinding for 20 years to hit that first 7-figure month, the long game always wins. But you don't have to do all the heavy lifting alone. If you want a marketing partner that works just as relentlessly as you do to dominate your market, head on over to rankings.io. We deliver proof over promises. I'm Chris Stryer, and we'll see you next time on Personal Injury Mastermind.